The surge, we're still going to fine tune, and we need to go over that family plan, right? So right now the surge values based on the track would be closer to 5-6 feet, even to the north. Also toward Pinellas and Hillsborough County, looking for those big impacts again during the day, Wednesday into early Thursday, winds of 60 to 80. There's that rain of 4 to 8 inches, could be a lot higher, 8 to 12 inches based on the track. It's still fine tuning the surge. There is a storm surge watch. Some areas could see a surge higher than we saw during Helene. So that's what our weather team's fine tuning right now. As we toward Manatee and Sarasota County we go, notice the farther south you go, closer to where the possible landfall would be. 90-mile-per-hour winds plus a rain of 6 to 10, and surge could be well over 10 feet, especially towards Siesta Key and Sarasota. But again, this will likely change and fluctuate a bit, so we'll continue to update that surge for you. And then as we go into inland counties, big impact, 60 to 80-mile-per-hour winds. There's that rain of 6 to 10 inches. Make sure you go over that storm plan for sure. Today's forecast, though, we can still prepare. We've got time out there. Here's our radar scene. There's bands of showers across the area from areas of Hillsborough County, Pasco, Hernando, Pinellas County. There will be some heavier showers at times, but overall it looks like most of the rainfall amounts would stay under an inch of rain, which is good news. In fact, you see through the day, there's the showery weather. Temperatures only near 80 degrees. On that 7-day forecast, things really start to pick up with the wind and rain. So Wednesday would be the big day, especially as we go into the afternoon. Biggest impacts really for Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco County. I've got as we go into Wednesday afternoon between about 1 p.m. to very late Wednesday of Thursday morning. So, of course, their impact alert in effect through Thursday. And behind this system, finally, some cooler and drier weather. Stay with us here at 10 Tampa Bay Plus. We will have updates throughout the day. And, of course, we'll keep you informed, prepared, and connected. Thanks for joining us here on 10 Tampa Bay. We've got a weather impact alert, all eyes on Milton. So as you were sleeping, you're just waking up this morning, first things first, we have another day to prepare. And I can tell you, getting to work, make sure you have plenty of gas, because I know it's tough finding some gas around the area at this time. So we're boarding up. We're actually taping up, boarding up. We don't really want to tape up in this, right? So we want to board up those windows because there could be a lot of flying objects out there with all the debris we have here in 10 Tampa Bay area. And I tell you what, as we look at this storm as a whole, I haven't seen much of a change overnight, maybe a little wobble farther to the north with the models. So let's take a look. And the one big update, of course, as expected, as our weather team's been telling you, we have major Hurricane Milton right now with 125-mile-per-hour sustained winds. That pressure now falling to 945 millibars. Telling us it continues to feed off of that very warm bath water in the southern Gulf of Mexico. Notice winds could be up near, can't rule out a Category 5 as we head into later today and late tonight into Tuesday. And then as it makes a move on Florida, it's going to start to feel the effects of a jet stream, high upper level winds, and this could start to shear it apart a bit, but it's going to be so powerful that energy is going to expand. So get caught up on going from a Category 4 or 5 forward back to a 3. It does look like big impacts for most of the state of Florida. So we're at the point right now where we know it's going to be such a powerful storm. We all need to take precautions. Check on your friends in South Florida, Central, and North Florida, and make sure they have safe spots to go, because travel will not be advised for much of the state as we head through the day on Wednesday. Wednesday night into the first part of Thursday would be the biggest impacts. As far as those models and the spaghetti models go, coming into more consensus or better agreement. Notice we still have that West Coast Florida landfall anywhere from just north of Tampa back closer to Fort Myers in South Florida. So we'll continue to watch this. Every mile does matter, especially when it comes to that deadly storm surge, right? As we found out during Helene. So we're going to be watching these tracks very carefully as we head into the next 12 to 24 hours. That'll be very crucial as far as that storm surge goes. As we look at Hurricane Milton as a whole, here it is. You can see becoming better organized. You go from a 2 to a 3. There's your major hurricane status. And it's just kind of hugging the coast of the Yucatan right now. A lot of wind shear to its north, okay? The problem is it's so far to the south, it's not really feeling the effects of that shear. In fact, you see better symmetry as it starts to make that move slowly off to the east-southeast at 8 miles per hour. We take a look at our forecast storm winds, and this is why we say don't focus on that cone so much, right? So we got to really back for us here throughout the whole of Tampa Bay. And as we found out with these hurricanes over the last 10 years or so, a lot of folks just focus on the coastal areas, on the cone. We're not going to do any of that because most of your fatalities over the last 10 years have been from inland flooding and flash flooding. And we could see that with this system. So unfortunately, not just a storm for Tampa and the west coast of Florida. We're talking interior areas, watching our friends in Polk County, Lakeland, all the way to Daytona Beach. This could actually still hold together as a hurricane all the way to the east coast of Florida, and some deadly flooding likely also just to the north. And that's just not even including the storm surge there. So keep that in mind. You see the envelope here. Wherever you see the yellow, that's where we could see some damaging wind gusts, and then more severe damaging wind gusts as you get closer to the actual center of the storm, where you see the orange coloring. But you can see that just the size of this as it expands, unfortunately, as it moves over Florida. As far as the tropical storm force winds, you see start to pick up as we wake up Wednesday morning. So we got to be where we need to go. All right, as we go into Tuesday night, get to where you need to be by Tuesday night. First thing Wednesday, things will go downhill. In fact, the very latest from the National Hurricane Center showing Fort Myers 80% chance of those tropical storm force winds as we get into Wednesday, up to 60% plus in Tampa. And these numbers will only increase as the storm starts to move closer to home. This is one of our first looks at the local impacts. Of course, it's all about county by county, keeping you safe at home. That's what matters most. So we look at Citrus, Hernando, and Pasco County. Biggest impacts late Tuesday night. So I've got Wednesday morning, 4 a.m. to late Wednesday night. So late Tuesday night to late Wednesday night, Thursday, 2 a.m. The impacts of 50 to 70 mile per hour winds, rain of 3 to 6 inches. The surge, we're still going to fine tune, and we need to go over that family plan, right? So right now, the surge values based on the track would be closer to 5-6 feet, even to the north. Also toward Pinellas and Hillsborough County, looking for those big impacts again during the day, Wednesday into early Thursday, winds of 60 to 80. There's that rain of 4 to 8 inches, could be a lot higher, 8 to 12 inches. It's still fine-tuning surge. There is a storm surge watch. Some areas could see a surge higher than we saw during Helene. So that's what our weather team's fine-tuning right now. As we toward Manatee and Sarasota County we go, notice the farther south you go, closer to where the possible landfall would be, the higher the wind gusts, 70 to 90 mile per hour winds, plus a rain of 6 to 10 inches, and a surge could be well over 10 feet, especially towards Siesta Key and Sarasota. But again, this will likely change and fluctuate a bit, so we'll continue to update that surge for you. And then as we go into inland counties, big impact, 60 to 80 mile per hour winds. There's that rain of 6 to 10 inches. Make sure you go over that storm plan for sure. Today's forecast, though, we can still prepare. We've got time out there. Here's our radar scene. There's bands of showers across the area from areas of Hillsborough County, Pasco, Hernando, Pinellas County. There will be some heavier showers at times, but overall it looks like most of the rainfall amounts would stay under an inch of rain, which is good news. In fact, you see through the day, there's the showery weather. Temperatures only near 80 degrees. On that 7-day forecast, things really start to pick up with the wind and rain. So Wednesday will be the big day, especially as we go to the afternoon. Biggest impacts really for Hillsborough, Dallas, and Pasco County. I've got as we go into Wednesday afternoon between about 1 p.m. to very late Wednesday night in the wee hours of Thursday morning. So, of course, a weather impact alert in effect through Thursday. And behind the system, finally, some cooler and drier weather. Stay with us here on 10 Tampa Bay Plus. We will have updates throughout the day. And, of course, we'll keep you informed. On 10 Tampa Bay, we've got a weather impact alert. All eyes on Milton. So as you were sleeping, if you're just waking up this morning, first things first, we have another day to prepare. And I can tell you, getting to work, make sure you have plenty of gas, because I know it's tough finding some gas around the area at this time. So we're boarding up. We're actually taping up, boarding up. We don't really want to tape up this, right? So we want to board up those windows, because there could be a lot of flying objects out there with all the debris we have here in 10 Tampa Bay area. And I tell you what, as we look at this storm as a whole, I haven't seen much of a change overnight, maybe a little wobble farther to the north with the models. So let's take a look. And the one big update, of course, as expected, as our weather team's been telling you, we have major Hurricane Milton right now with 125 mile per hour sustained winds. That pressure now falling to 945 millibars, telling us it continues to feed off of that very warm bath water in the southern Gulf of Mexico. Notice winds could be up near, can't rule out a Category 5 as we head into later today and late tonight into Tuesday. And then as it makes a move on Florida, it's going to start to feel the effects of a jet stream, high upper level winds, and it's start to shear it apart a bit, but it's going to be so powerful. That energy is going to likely expand. So don't get too caught up on going from a Category 4 or 5, 4 back to a 3. It does look like big impacts for most of the state of Florida. So we're at the point right now where we know it's going to be such a powerful storm. We all need to take precautions. Check on your friends in South Florida, Central, and North Florida. and make sure they have safe spots to go, because travel will not be advised for much of the state as we head through the day on Wednesday. Wednesday night into the first part of Thursday would be the biggest impacts. As far as those models and the spaghetti models go, coming into more consensus or better agreement. Notice we still have that West Coast Florida landfall anywhere from just north of Tampa back closer to Fort Myers in South Florida. So we'll continue to watch this. Every mile does matter, especially when it comes to that deadly storm surge, right? As we found out during Helene. So we're going to be watching these tracks very carefully as we head into the next 12 to 24 hours. That'll be very crucial as far as that storm surge goes. As we look at Hurricane Milton as a whole, here it is. You can see becoming better organized. You go from a 2 to 3 there status, and it's just kind of hugging the coast of the Yucatan. Okay. The problem is it's so far to the south, it's not really feeling the effects of that shear. In fact, you see better symmetry as it starts to make that move slowly off to the east-southeast at 8 miles per hour. Hurricane watch officially in effect for us here throughout the whole of Tampa Bay. And as we found out with these hurricanes over the last 10 years or so, a lot of folks just focus on the coastal areas, on the cone. We're not going to do any of that because most of your fatalities over the last 10 years have been from inland flooding and flash flooding. And we could see that with this system. So unfortunately, not just a storm for Tampa and the west coast of Florida. We're talking interior areas, watching our friends in Polk County, Lakeland, all the way to Daytona Beach. This could actually still hold together as a hurricane all the way to the east coast of Florida, and some deadly flooding likely also just to the north. And that's just not even including the storm surge there. So keep that in mind. You see the envelope here. Wherever you see the yellow, that's where we could see some damaging wind gusts, and then more severe damaging wind gusts as you get closer to the actual center of the storm, where you see the orange coloring. But you can see that just the size of this as it expands, unfortunately, as it moves over Florida. As far as the tropical storm force winds, you see they will start to pick up as we wake up Wednesday morning. So we got to be where we need to go. All right, as we go into Tuesday, we need to be by Tuesday night. First thing Wednesday, things will go downhill. In fact, the very latest from the National Hurricane Center showing Fort Myers 80% chance of those tropical storm force winds as we get into Wednesday, up to 60% plus in Tampa, and these numbers will only increase as the storm starts to move closer to home. This is one of our first looks at the local impacts. Of course, it's all about county by county, keeping you safe at home. That's what matters most. So we look at Citrus, Hernando, and Pasco County. Biggest impacts late Tuesday night. So I've got Wednesday morning, 4 a.m. to late Wednesday night. So late Tuesday night to late Wednesday night, Thursday, 2 a.m. The impacts of 50 to 70 mile per hour winds, rain of 3 to 6 inches. The surge, we're still going to fine tune, and we need to go over that family plan, right? So right now, the surge values based on the track would be closer to 5-6 feet, even to the north. Also toward Pinellas and Hillsborough County, looking for those big impacts again during the day, Wednesday into early Thursday, winds of 60 to 80. There's that rain of 4 to 8 inches, could be a lot higher, 8 to 12 inches based on the track. It's still fine tuning the surge. There is a storm surge watch. Some areas could see a surge higher than we saw during Helene. So that's what our weather team's fine tuning right now. As we toward Manatee and Sarasota County we go, notice the farther south you go, closer to where the possible landfall would be, the higher the wind gusts, 70 to 90 mile per hour winds, plus a rain of 6 to 10 inches, and a surge could be well over 10 feet, especially towards Siesta Key and Sarasota. But again, this will likely change and fluctuate a bit. So we'll continue to update that surge for you. And then as we go into inland counties, big impact, 60 to 80 mile per hour winds. There's that rain of 6 to 10 inches. Make sure you go over that storm plan for sure. Today's forecast, though, we can still prepare. We've got time out there. Here's our radar seeing those bands of showers across the area from areas of Hillsborough County, Pasco, Hernando, Pinellas County. There will be some heavier showers at times, but overall, it looks like most of the rainfall amounts would stay under an inch of rain, which is good news. In fact, you see through the day, there's the showery weather. Temperatures only near 80 degrees.
All right, we're going to pause this real quick, folks. And I give you unfeathered truth storm coverage or any other coverage I'm doing. I'm not out here for clicks. I go to steer you. I go through and try to give you a bunch of BS that other influencers try to do. We're not into all that. We're into telling you the truth and being there. I don't want to scare you, but I do want to inform you. Okay, so this thing is going to be a category 4. Let me go into here real quick. So they're showing 150-mile-per-hour winds right now, 940 millibars, 155 by noon tomorrow. I would tell you it's going to be probably that today. This thing is rapidly intensifying because it's where it's at is way down and near the Yucatan Peninsula. And that is doing nothing more than intensifying it even more than it was. It's going to intensify fast. It's going to intensify quick. And there's not going to be a lot we can do about that. The storm surge is what's got everybody worried. And that would worry me too, to be honest with you, because if it comes in on Tampa like they say it's going to, y'all have never seen a storm in Tampa this strong. But you've been lucky because they normally, this strong would come up out of the Atlantic and hit the east coast of Florida. But we got this on the west coast of Florida in the Tampa Bay area. Now, the Big Bend area has seen strong storms, category 4s. They just seen Helene not so long ago. But Tampa Bay is not one set up for this kind of hit. It just isn't set up for that. All right, we're going to go into another weather forecast here. So that's why it's 3 minutes 41 seconds out of Florida, 6 a.m. this morning. Let's see what's going on with this.
On Monday, I'm Eric Yutzi.
And I'm Alexis Frazier in for Alex Finney. We're going to begin this hour.
Good morning, South Florida. Today is October 7th. On Monday, I'm Eric Yutzi.
And I'm Alexis Frazier in for Alex Finney. We're going to begin this hour with the developments in the Gulf. We are tracking Hurricane Milton, the system rapidly strengthening to a Category 2 hurricane this morning. Milton brewing in the Gulf of Mexico, taking aim at Florida's west coast.
Here's what we know about this storm. Governor Ron DeSantis declaring states of emergency for 51 of Florida's 67 counties, including Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe. Milton could make landfall potentially as a Category 3 storm by the middle of the week, mainly along Florida's west coast.
And we have live team coverage from Tampa to Miami. Local 10 Samir Nefsi reports from the potential storm zone in Tampa.
For support, and Kevin has been working with the administrator, and we anticipate positive approval on that. We have 51
Trying to get set up where as we get in here go.
the Division of Emergency Management, Secretary Jared Perdue, Florida Department of Transportation, Major General John Haas from the Florida National Guard. Hurricane Milton, when we were here yesterday morning, said this is a tropical storm, might become a hurricane yesterday, but probably by today, and it became a hurricane very quickly. And so not only is it a hurricane, it's already a major hurricane, and it's now a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds at 150 miles per hour. It is expected to make landfall on the west coast of Florida sometime between Wednesday evening or perhaps even very early on Thursday. This has gone slower than the projections were in terms of the how it's moving towards Florida. And if that continues, it's going to push back when landfall will happen. Of course, you can see impacts prior to the eye wall making landfall. We have made a pre-landfall declaration request to FEMA for support, and Kevin has been working with the administrator, and we anticipate positive approval on that. We have 51 counties in Florida currently under a state of emergency. The executive order that I signed over the weekend also orders all disaster debris management sites and landfills to be open 24/7 in the lead up to Hurricane Milton. We had a lot of debris left from Hurricane Helene on Florida's Gulf Coast. That creates a huge hazard if you have a major hurricane hit in that area this week. So we've marshaled state assets to be able to help with that mission, and we're going to continue to do that until it's safe, until it's no longer safe to do so. So we do have a Category 4 hurricane. It is currently located 745 miles southwest of Tampa. It has not moved terribly quickly, but that obviously could change going forward. Storm surge watch has been issued for the Florida Gulf Coast from mainland Monroe County northward to the Suwannee River, the Dixie-Levy County line. 8 to 12 feet peak storm surge is potential for northern Pinellas all the way down to Charlotte, including in Tampa Bay. 5 to 10 feet peak storm surge is possible from Yankeetown southward to the Pasco-Pinellas County line and from Inglewood southward to Bonita Beach, including Charlotte Harbor. Hurricane watches have been issued for portions of west central Florida and Florida's nature coast through southwest Florida and the Keys and along portions of the Florida Panhandle. Division of Emergency Management is busy facilitating hundreds of resource requests from communities as we prepare for the impacts. We've already sent major truckloads of food and water to Central Florida in preparation for points of distribution sites after the storm. We're also coordinating the deployment of more than 2,000 feet of flood protection systems and prioritizing critical infrastructure like hospitals, wastewater treatment facilities, and electrical infrastructure. We've deployed a flood barrier around a water pumping station in Bradenton, a fire station in Hillsborough, and more en route to the courthouse in Charlotte County, hospital in Kissimmee, master pump station in St. Pete, and a community resource center in Hernando County. We've also deployed generators to support special needs sheltering operations. And of course, Starlink internet, all counties have access to that, and we're deploying more as needed. More than 200 ambulances and more than 30 paratransits are in Central Florida footprint, ready to support first responder operations. As I previously noted, we've ramped up our support of debris removal. That's a 24/7 round-the-clock mission. The state of Florida is amassing significant amount of fuel reserves ahead of Milton, and we're staging it to be utilized as needed. These quantities include 415,000 gallons of diesel, 389,000 gallons of gasoline, and an additional 1.5 million gallons of both diesel and gasoline are currently en route. I know there's different things that are being said, but all fuel continues to arrive at Florida ports. There has not been an interruption of that. I know people are going to fill up their gas tanks, which is a good thing. There's more lines than maybe that we're used to on some of these, but there has not been an interruption in fuel deliveries, and all the ports are checked in on that. Local officials and their vendors must continue debris removal efforts for those areas that are in the eye of potential path of this storm. My executive order requires debris landfill and dump sites to remain open 24/7 to accept debris from Hurricane Helene. We need as much of this debris picked up as possible. This creates a safety hazard and so will increase the damage that Milton could do with flying debris. All local entities should comply with this order and work around the clock to accomplish this mission. We have deployed major assets to help, but yet, last night in Pinellas County, there were 300 vehicles. Some of them were state vehicles, but also a lot of private pickup trucks and vehicles who were bringing debris that's helpful. They should be doing that. And yet, one of the gates was locked. There was no one manning it. And so we had this massive line of cars waiting to drop off debris, which is a good thing. And so Florida Highway Patrol basically took matters into their own hands, fastened some rope to a couple pickup trucks to the gate and busted the gate open. And then those trucks were able to go in and unload the debris. We don't have time for bureaucracy and red tape. We have to get the job done. And the effort that Jared Perdue and Kevin's team have made in helping get the debris off and supplementing the local efforts has been incredible. We have noticed in St. Petersburg get the debris out, and that's a great thing. And they're working, I think, well. But these debris sites need to be open, and we're going to ensure that to be able to do. So just in the last 24 hours, the state has done almost 500 truckloads of debris, totaling 9,000 cubic yards. So that's just from the barrier islands in Pinellas County, bringing to the debris landfills. We have over 200 state assets, dump trucks, other types of trucks and vehicles to be able to do. But keeping it 24/7 is important. We absolutely encourage private citizens to have the debris and bring it in. That's helping the mission. Can't get bogged down in bureaucracy on this. The debris mission continue until it's no longer safe to do so. Clearly, we work all the way through today and probably all the way through tomorrow, given that the storms last. And that could even get pushed back even further. So we've made a big dent in this. I know folks on the ground locally and those barrier islands and places like Manatee and Pinellas have been working very hard. But let's get this done. Let's get as much of that debris removed as humanly possible, and let's work 24/7 to be able to do it. So we have right now, just in the debris mission, we have 800 National Guardsmen that are also deployed helping our state agencies. We currently have 5,000 guardsmen that are mobilized for the response to this storm, and we have more than 3,000 additional guardsmen who will be mobilized prior to landfall. The National Guard's also deploying heavy equipment to assist with debris removal, including Army and Air Force horizontal construction units, tactical high water vehicles, dump trucks, and front-end loaders. Linemen and power restoration resources are being marshaled in advance of the storm. This is a storm, the path of this storm that would hit the western part of the Florida Peninsula, then go all the way across the peninsula and exit in the Atlantic Ocean. That's going to impact a lot of different utilities. We've spoken to most of them, and they're working to get people here. You know, if you look, we had Helene, and there were 2.4 million restorations, but 99.9% were back within a few days. Yeah, there's still hundreds of thousands of people without power in some of these other states that got hit by Helene. So there are crews working there, but they're bringing people in from far and wide to be able to respond accordingly. This path of this storm, you know, we don't know exactly how it's going to go. I know they say the eye is going to go here or here. That can move when you're talking about 30, 40, 50 miles north or south. Will make a huge difference in terms of who gets the worst surge, how much power is ended up taken out. And so we have no way of knowing how that's going to shake out. So the resources are being brought in, and the power restoration effort will begin as soon as it's safe to do so. Again, I made this point yesterday, but all of our assets that we had lent to assist in North Carolina are here in the state of Florida. We have a temporary base camp at Tropicana Field to support not just the debris operations, but any post-landfall first responding operations. So we have landfall. It's going to happen probably sometime later Wednesday. Maybe early Thursday. And there is going to be a landfall in the middle of this week. Monday morning, where we are today, you have time to execute your plan, but you got to do it now. There have been some evacuations that have been issued. There's going to be a flurry of them today. I know the counties are working on opening shelters. They typically will open the shelters after they have the evacuation go out, not before. So make sure that you're following the news coming out of your local county. But all these barrier islands, all these areas that would be susceptible to the storm surge that's up and down the west coast of Florida, you should assume that there's going to be some form of evacuations that are going to be issued by your local county officials. That is going to happen when you have the potential for storm surge of this magnitude. We also have a storm that's already very powerful. Now, the forecasts are that it's going to peak before it reaches landfall. and then weekend, it's still going to be a strong storm. But, we don't know that that's necessarily going to happen. And so this is something that's going to be really, really significant one way or another. But you have time to be able to do this today. And again, you don't have to evacuate hundreds of miles. If you're in those barrier islands, if you're in areas that are susceptible to storm surge, you go to areas that are not susceptible to that. Every county has places within them where you can go to. Maybe it's a friend's house, maybe nothing would be designated as a shelter if it couldn't withstand that. So that's an option, especially if you're not comfortable getting on the road and traveling a great distance. You don't have to do that. And you're going to see shelters open in all these counties. Kevin is working on supplementing that from the state if there's a need to have more, particularly in Central Florida. So we'll do that. But you have an opportunity today to do what you need to do to execute this plan. You have time today, but do it. But time is going to start running out very, very soon. We are effective at 10:30 a.m. We are suspending all tolls in western part of Central Florida into Central Florida, as well as Alligator Alley. People sometimes will say, where do you evacuate to? They just want to get out. They don't want to just stay local, and they want to get out. Well, I think that probably the easiest route would probably be to go north if you're in Central Florida, because the way the storm looks, it looks like it's going to have more of an impact on Central and Southern Florida. Most of these places in Tallahassee in Northern Florida likely aren't going to see as significant of impacts. But be that as it may, just understand that if they have a storm going into the greater Tampa Bay area now, it is possible that could shift further south. So if you do evacuate south, you may be ending up going to where you're going to have a lot of the storm anyways. We saw that with Hurricane Ian, so just be mindful of that. But again, you don't have to go hundreds of miles. That is not required. Any place that's going to be open as a shelter, Florida hotels that are built, within the last however many 20, 30 years are all going to be able to withstand hurricane force winds. Sandbag locations are open in multiple counties in South and Central Florida. Check your county's EM page to find out where those locations are. You can find your county's emergency management page by going to floridadisaster.org/counties, floridadisaster.org/counties, and you have that local EM page that will tell you about any local evacuation orders that are made. But know your zone, know where you are. The bad thing about having a storm right on top is we have these logistical challenges. The one thing people have with Helene, they know if they got a lot of storm surge with Helene, very well may get even more with this storm. So don't mess with the storm surge and do what you need to do to keep yourself and your family safe. We're going to be continuing to work around the clock here at the Emergency Operations Center. We're doing all the things that we would normally do, but then obviously we have this debris removal mission that we've dived into to be able to help these local communities that have all this. It's going well, but we need to keep doing on that. Okay, Kevin Guthrie will come up and give an update.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for once again supporting the division, the State Emergency Response Team, as we respond to Hurricane Milton. The State Emergency Response Team continues to work on more than 600 mission requests received from our counties. Residents should begin finalizing your disaster plans, and if your plan calls for you to evacuate, you should do so today. Many of the counties are going to issue their evacuation orders today. Some of them, for example, Pasco County, will start at 10 a.m. this morning. Others will be Pinellas County, I believe, at 2 p.m. this afternoon, and still others will have varying times. You may ask why the varying times. Each county's population is factored into that, so the clearance times is what they will be making those decisions based on. So those evacuation orders will be going out today. I would highly recommend, if anybody has the means to do so, you have the capability of going to a hotel, staying with friends and families, get on the road today, wherever that might be. There's hoteling in Orlando. If you are 100% going to need to be dependent on power and you have the means to do so, you may want to consider a Jacksonville. It's likely that Jacksonville will not experience any type of power outage. So if you've got to be guaranteed power and you have the financial means, you may want to consider something a little bit further away. However, for those that do not, shelters will be opening. We recommend that you start moving towards a shelter. Shelter capacity will be limited. You heard the governor say that we are going to work on supplemental sheltering. We have identified state buildings. We have identified vacant buildings across the entire footprint of Florida. It would be more of the type of material or food that you're used to seeing at a point of distribution, but we will have food and water. If you have access for functional needs and have not registered with the Florida Special Needs Registry, you need to do that this morning. They've already started, cities and counties have already started call downs of their special needs registry to ensure that those individuals have a ride to the closest special needs shelter. If you depend on medication or electricity to use your medical devices, your area is called to evacuate, you need to do so. You may lose power and there will be no way to use your medical devices. Make sure that's a part of your plan. The National Hurricane Center released new storm surge values as of 8 a.m. this morning. They issued a special advisor at 9 that the governor's already talked about, where the hurricane force winds are now Category 4. However, I'm going to draw your attention to something we did for you this morning. Everybody likes visuals. 5 feet and 10 feet. The ceiling in here is 10'8". We're talking about storm surge values higher than the ceiling. Please, if you're in the Tampa Bay area, you need to evacuate. If they have called for your evacuation order, I beg you, I implore you to evacuate. Drowning deaths due to storm surge are 100% preventable if you leave. We had situations where people died of drowning in Hurricane Ian. Had they just gone across the bridge from Estero Bay, Sanibel Island, and so on, just across the bridge to the first available shelter that had capacity, they'd still be alive today. Please remember that counties will call for these evacuation orders, and we will likely be seeing those today, as I've already mentioned. If you need to evacuate, we want you to evacuate out, not up. After I made the comment last night, my brother-in-law called me and said, in fact, for Hurricane Helene, we have 380 elevators that are not working in the greater Tampa Bay area. Elevators are going to go down. You're not going to be able to get down the elevator. If you are dependent on elevator usage versus stairs, you need to make that part of your evacuation plan. If you cannot get down those stairs, you need to evacuate. Evacuate out, not up. You can visit floridadisaster.org/know to determine if you live in an evacuation zone. Your gas tank and electric vehicle only need to be halfway full. Get the gas, get as much as you need to get to where you're going. If you're in an evacuation zone, you need evacuation assistance, please call this number, 1-800-729-3413. That's 1-800-729-3413. That's for all residents. We have people there to answer your questions, and we can help you get out of your evacuation zone if you need additional assistance. The state has activated the State Assistance Information Line, also known as the SAIL line. If you need information, again, information only on resources. They cannot get you people, but if you need to ask a question, that is what the SAIL line is for. 1-800-342-3557. Again, that's 1-800-342-3557. We have English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole waiting to help you out. Additional preparedness resources can be found at floridadisaster.org/updates. Make sure you follow us on X, Instagram, at FLSERT, and on Facebook at FDEM, as we are sharing updates in real time. Please make sure that you have a way to receive alerts. Make sure that you
debris in Pinellas, Manatee specifically, where they were hit hard by
English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole of waiting 557. We have English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole of waiting to help you out. Additional preparedness resources can be found at floridadisaster.org/update. The state assistance information line, also known as the SAIL line. Evacuate out, not up. You can visit floridadisaster.org/know to determine if you live in an evacuation zone. Your gas tank and electric vehicle only need to go way full. Get the gas, get as much as you need to get to where you're going. If you're in an evacuation zone, you need evacuation assistance, please call this number, 1-800-729-3413. That's 1-800-729-3413. That's for all residents. We have people there to answer your questions, and we can help you get out of your evacuation zone if you need additional assistance. The state has activated the state assistance information line, also known as the SAIL line. If you need information, again, information only on resources. They cannot get you people, but if you need to ask a question, that is what the SAIL line is for. 1-800-342-3557. Again, that's 1-800-342-3557. We have English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole of waiting to help you out. Additional preparedness resources can be found at floridadisaster.org/update. Make sure you follow us on X, Instagram at FLSERT, and on Facebook at FDEM, as we are sharing updates in real time. Please make sure that you have a way to receive alerts. Make sure that you see all the additional information at your county emergency management agency at floridadisaster.org/counties. And again, thank you, Governor, for your continued support and partnership.
Jared?
All right. Thank you, Governor, and good morning. We have continued to respond to Hurricane Helene and also ramp up our efforts to prepare for Hurricane Milton. To date, FDOT has removed nearly 180,000 cubic yards of debris statewide. And as you heard from Governor DeSantis, we've taken the mission of removing as much as debris as possible before Milton makes landfall very serious. We've mobilized every available state asset and resource to do just this. It's been a partnership between FDOT, DEM, Florida Department of Agriculture, the National Guard, and the State Guard. We have a lot of people on the ground. We have a lot of equipment on the ground. We have continued to remove debris. It is really important that everybody understand we're in this thing together. As you heard from the governor, we saw a lot of private property throughout the night last night. We highly encourage that. Every little bit of debris that gets removed counts and gets us to our goal and helps us fulfill that mission. We are calling on all of our local governments, local municipalities, and debris vendors and contractors. If you have available resources and available assets, please deploy those. Join us, join state employees and our asset deployment of all of our equipment to remove debris in Pinellas, Manatee specifically, where that is in assets. As you've heard from the governor throughout the day yesterday, we moved a lot of debris. We're going to continue working until it's no longer safe to do so. And our goal, again, is to remove as much debris as we can possibly remove before Hurricane Milton makes landfall. As you heard from the governor, we are preparing to suspend tolls effective at 10:30 a.m. this morning for West Florida, Central Florida, and Alligator Alley to help facilitate those evacuations. We have seen people begin to leave already, which is a good thing. You need to leave early. If you're within those low-lying areas where storm surge could impact you, the earlier you leave, the better. It's going to help with traffic. It's going to help with evacuations, and it will make your trip a lot easier. We've seen increased volumes on I-75 and I-4. We're continuing to watch traffic live with our 10 regional traffic management centers across the state. They operate 24/7. We've increased the number and frequency of our road rage patrol and motorist aid to facilitate those evacuations. They do have the ability to aid motorists with fuel, water, and also remove stranded or idle vehicles out of the travelway. We've also prepared our shoulders for what we call emergency shoulder use. As volumes pick up and speeds lower for the interstate facilities, we then begin to implement what's known as emergency shoulder use, and we open up the shoulders of our interstates for live traffic. We do that when the speeds get down to around 40 miles per hour. We have a partnership with Florida Highway Patrol, and they go out there, the troopers go out there live real time and assist people in getting on the shoulder to help relieve congestion. We've used this in multiple storms. We used it for Hurricane Irma. We used it for Hurricane Ian. It was very successful. And so we're prepared and ready to do that as volumes continue to pick up. A lot of rain has already fallen across the state of Florida. The ground is saturated. More rain is anticipated to fall before Hurricane Milton makes landfall. So in terms of transportation, we are anticipating a vegetative debris event. We're ramping up our resources for cut and toss and clearing roads. We're preparing all of our drainage structures and drainage systems, local municipalities, so that we can get roads back open as quickly as possible. We're watching very closely our bridges and low-lying roads in coastal areas, and also our bridges and low-lying roads around rivers, creeks, and streams inland with the amount of rainfall that's coming in. And we're going to be prepared to deploy damage assessment teams and effect emergency temporary repairs immediately after the storm passes through, based on what we see and find. We're staging generators for traffic signal power. We're staging pumps for potential flooding, and we're going to be ready to roll and ready to respond as soon as Hurricane Milton passes through. We're committing every possible and available resource to respond to this storm. We've had over 2,000 FDOT employees actively responding to Hurricane Helene. They're going to continue working through Hurricane Milton. We are committed to getting the job done, and we're going to make sure it happens. If you need information on traffic, fl511.com is the place to get traffic information. It is updated live real time by our traffic management centers. A lot of times during emergency preparedness, the third-party nation app, sometimes 511.com is the place to get traffic information. Thank you, Governor.
Okay, so we're ramping up, but we've been ramping up all weekend. We've got a massive amount of resources that are have been mobilized, that are continue to be mobilized, including this debris mission, which we think is critical. But also just say this is a storm. When these hurricanes make landfall, they obviously will weaken some, but it's projected to leave the Florida Peninsula on the east coast of Florida still as a hurricane. So it isn't like this is going to be something where it hits as a hurricane, then ends up more of just a tropical system by the time it leaves the state. It's going to remain a hurricane at some level all the way through exiting on the east coast of Florida. And again, we don't have a guaranteed track in terms of where this thing's going to make landfall. You're talking about 50 miles north, 50 miles south. That'll make a huge difference in terms of where you have the most significant impacts. And there's just no way to know right now where exactly that's going to be. And so that's why anybody on the west coast of Florida, you have the potential for major storm surge. And then if you are in the path of this on the interior part of Florida, you're going to get some strong winds. It isn't like it's just going to be a rainstorm. I mean, all the way until it exits the state, it's going to be powerful. So please take the appropriate precautions, listen to your local officials, and we'll get through this. We'll respond very quickly, but this does have the potential to have a lot of damage. Okay.
Governor, are you still anticipating this to be the largest evacuation since around 2017?
It's hard to know exactly. I mean, I think Irma, there was a lot of people that got on the road, and then they had to go back, and so it was a little bit different, I think, situation here we know that if you are in an area on the Florida Peninsula on the west coast of the state that is vulnerable to storm surge, you're likely going to be under some type of an evacuation order. Certainly anywhere in that center part, Pasco, all those areas are going to have evacuation orders for sure. So it is going to be a significant number of people. We'll see exactly how that shakes out, but it's a major issue because of we have a storm that could hit in different spots. I mean, that's just the reality that we're dealing with. I mean, if we knew exactly where it was going to hit, you probably would evacuate fewer people, but we don't know that. And as we saw with Hurricane Ian, there was a thought a couple days before it was going to hit one place. It ended up hitting much further south. So in this storm, even though a lot of the models track it somewhere in that Sarasota, Bradenton, Tampa Bay area right now, and maybe that's what ends up happening, you know, it potentially could hit further north. It potentially could hit further. You're dealing with, you're going to see a lot of evacuation orders.
That's what reported in Taylor County with Helene. The sheriff says it was because everyone evacuated, those communities were level. Talk about the importance of people listening to those evacuation orders with this one.
Well, Taylor County had more storm surge, maybe even 20 feet in some of those areas. So you had homes that withstood Hurricane Idalia, which was hit as a category 3. It was a 4 in the water, and then it hit as a 3 and survived it fine. And then on Helene, they were totally wiped off the map. And that's all because of the storm surge. It is the winds were more with Helene than with Idalia, but not so much more that a house could go fine and then get obliterated. It was the storm surge. And when you get away from the storm surge, then you're going to be able to most likely ride out the storm and be safe. You hide from the wind and you run from the water. You can find structures in Florida that can withstand, even if you're in the path of the storm, that can withstand the wind. There's a lot of things in Florida that are built to be able to withstand major hurricane force winds, but you just can't contend with storm surge that is 10, 15 feet of storm surge. I mean, Kevin showed, I mean, this is a little bit over 10 feet. This room. Significant. The reason why they had no fatalities is because the people that were in those areas that got whacked by the storm surge did get out. Now we always have, and in Helene, we had a tree can fall somewhere, you can have a traffic accident, you can have all that. That's just more likely to happen in more populated areas, and it's very unfortunate. And so some of those things can kind of just be freak occurrences with that. But the one thing that people can control is if you are in an area that is vulnerable to this surge, if you get out of there, the chance of you being able to ride this out and returning home safely is very, very high. If you stay in there and you got 10 feet, you're really, really taking a risk with your life and your safety.
There's a picture of a whole field of bucket trucks and line crews ready to go to put power up. We don't have that right now. It sounds like you said the private.
No, they're being mobilized now. I mean, you think.
How many do we have pulled together so far?
Well, they're working with the companies, but we've been talking with them over the weekend. They understand, and so if you look at the path of the storm, Tampa Bay, you got Tico, you got a Duke, and then to the extent it goes south of Tampa Bay across, you pretty much have FPL. And so, these are major engines. We do have some municipals. We do have some co-ops as well, but they did a lot with this. So that is happening. They are actively working to bring as many people in as possible. You're looking at probably not going to be able to do any restoration until Thursday morning would likely be as early as you're going to be able to do it, depending on, and it may even be later if the storm continues to move slower than anticipated. But they are all actively bringing people in, and I think you're going to continue to see more and more people brought into the state over the next few days.
Looking to bring line workers in from the western United States because there's so much committed to the Carolinas after Helene. Is there a problem with just finding enough line workers now to come in and do that work?
Well, they are bringing people from further away from Florida than traditionally, because we still have hundreds of thousands of people without power in other parts of the country, other parts of the Southeast. The job that's there and bring them back until that job is finished. But I do know, and I spoke with FPL personally, they're committed to bringing people in from where they need to be able to get there. When you just had a hurricane that knocked out power for I mean, you still have hundreds of thousands of folks in, I think, the Carolinas and Georgia, but certainly North Carolina. In those states, and so you got a lot of people there. But you got to bring them in from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, all those places. They're going to do it. Obviously, we support the mutual aid from the emergency management. I mean, that's the norm in these hurricanes. I think our efforts to really front load this and go quickly and working with the utilities has that's not the norm in terms of how these things are going. So the fact that you still have people there is not surprising to me at all. But I'm glad that the mission here was completed in record time. I know that's going to be helpful for those. And if we hadn't have pre-staged before Helene, you could be in a situation where you're having, massive restoration efforts still ongoing in the state of Florida just for Helene. So fortunately, that is 99.9% of that was complete, and we're ready for the next one.
Flags you're anticipating on elections, given that today's the last day to register to vote or anything like that, Chiefs?
Not in terms of voter registration. I mean, people can register today, and then that's that. There's nothing inhibiting you registering today. The storm has not hit yet. Now, after the storm, we will see what damage is there. And if I have to do a similar executive order that I did in Ian and that I did for Helene, we're happy to do it, but we're not going to change any registration deadline. You can register today, and there's no reason to open that up.
One of the things that happened in Hurricane Irma was at the time closed all public schools to have them open as shelters. Now, I don't know if you need to do all of them, but you anticipate closing schools in areas that may not be affected just to have them open as
Voices that are outside the path of the storm that have volunteered to provide sheltering. Some of that may be schools, some of that may be other things. And so you could see in the Panhandle, for example, you could see options for people that'll do. I think, and Kevin, do you want to address that? I mean, I think Kevin, so you're going to see schools closure in the path of the storm for sure. And that's going to happen all through Central Florida and potentially Southern Florida, depending on the exact path. So all of those shelter operations will be going on the county level. And the thing about if you're in the Tampa Bay, Bradenton, Sarasota, wherever this thing is likely going to make landfall, you will have options within your county. You are not going to need to go. You can hunker down, but the further inland you go, there'd probably be less demand for sheltering from the residents of places like Orange or Seminole, just simply because if they're not in a flood zone or they're not a danger for rising waters, likely they live in homes that are going to be able to ride this out. And not if you're a mobile home park or something that may be different. So I would anticipate there being more of a demand for sheltering on the coast. And then with Kevin's mission of, if there's an abandoned JCPenney, they're going to go in, they're going to give that an option, and that'll be local so that people don't have to drive very hard. So this is a contingency that they've had planned for a long time. So they've been working this for many days as soon as we saw that there was likely going to be a storm. So there'll be a lot of different options, but if there does need to be sheltering in other areas outside, I know there's already been counties that have raised their hand and say they want to do that. Okay. Yep.
There's miles and miles of debris along the side of the road in Pinellas County. How would you describe the potential danger if you're not able to get a lot of that out of the way before the storm?
So the debris in Pinellas, well, I can tell you the danger is less than it would have been had we not mobilized all these state assets. We saw this as something, and in fact, Kevin and I have been saying we want to be helpful with debris in ways that we can be. Obviously, this is a local responsibility to pick up the stuff on the roads. And Kevin and I both really urged all the local governments have those debris contracts ready. As soon as Helene passes, you got to go. And I think a lot of them did do that. But if you're looking at what we've done to have what is it, 8,000 or 9,000 cubic, just cubic yards of debris that just our trucks have done, I mean, that's made a huge difference.
that hard. I think he opens every video stream. It's probably they got restated. So, but he probably just assumed that new towers are another side effect of perimenopause, about which no one bothered to warn her. Yes. Seen the dog.
I'm sorry, baby. I had to move.
You get that room. You get that room. Like, listen, we all.
I meant to send you the one for the Airbnb owner that refunded that lady for her
He's like,
vacation.
so sorry, but I haven't gotten back to you yet.
Has refunded her double.
Yeah, but he was like, so sorry, I haven't gotten back. He was very, that was a very, I'll just go ahead and use the double, because apparently I've inconvenienced you so much. That was sorry.
I know.
And then he was like, I've seen it, and then he was like, sorry, you won't be able to rent it for 2 to 3 years while I rebuild. Here's double your money back. I don't know how she feels about being one of the most hated women in the world, but sometimes you have to do what's out there, you know? Like, it's cool to be tone deaf, don't you? It never ends well.
Right. He's trying to get you out of your bad mental state. He'll give you criticism of it to get you out of your bad mental state. That's a good thing. I would constantly take him out. And I go out and cigarette, I take him out. He went took out the corner, he woke me up. I took him out. He went on grass, he pooped his teeth, and that's it. Okay, right, we are fixing to go to WFLA, Tampa, Florida. These are the ones that I watched the last for Hurricane Helene. Their in-house model predicted Helene exactly. It was off of the track of the National Hurricane Center. And yeah, there it's growing storm center category 4. We're 2 minutes and some change away from WFLA in Florida, giving you the latest update right here. Stay with us. We will keep you updated with the truth about the storm. We will not hype it up. No, he ran over the mountain. Hey, not really.
They're totally frustrated. No! Don't forget you got food.
No. Bring it down. Is that what you want? We're gonna go back out, lay down by the toilet, which is what he's the best time. I'm trying to be sure about that.
I'm sorry.
And he lets you know his opinion. Here, just waiting on WFLA out of Tampa area to start their live streams. These guys are very, very good at what they do. They predicted Helene exactly. Their in-house model is great. Their in-house model predicted the track that eventually Helene took, which was a different track than the National Hurricane. This is WFLA in Florida. I'm gonna let this play again. I am here to give you the truth about the storm, not hype it up. I don't want to scare you. I don't want to quit. I don't want to fake. I want to give you the truth. And this is going to give you the truth the entire time. Right here, the Outcast Podcast, Hurricane Milton coverage. Right here on the Outcast Podcast. What are you whining about? Come on, WFLA, you're picking up my screen now. I was supposed to start
It's only
3 minutes ago.
It says 11.
Yeah, but right here they were supposed to start at 10:30.
I'm so sorry that people have the nerve to not be on time for you. I can't take you to the I have to.
You're going to have to learn to tell Fredo to go complete baby you've already know. Your brothers and your sisters are so great to get you. The whole house is
You know, I think you want it back over?
what? Did you pick the collar off? Look at that on. Jewelry off.
The boy was bothering me. My mistake, Madison, don't take that collar off.
Again, we're waiting on WFLA out of Florida. This is out of Tampa area. He's going to be looking at, normally the chief meteorologist is on there with him. There's a chance he might not be on there today. He probably will be. This is going to be storm coverage, unbiased truth, no hype. I'm not going to try to scare the living crap out of you. We will give you 100% true information. This is WFLA out of Tampa, Florida. Waiting on them. They were supposed to start at 10:30. It's 10:35, so they're running a few minutes late. They may be waiting on the new update may have already come in. I'm not sure. But again, this is WFLA out of Tampa, Florida. Right now, where it's expected to hit. Again, we're waiting on Tampa, Florida, and WFLA. Go ahead and place in the comments you got. Any questions you got, I'll try to answer them. I've got GFS models and stuff. WFLA out of Florida. Check them out. Continuous 5 coverage. Hurricane Milton now, Category 4. That's come out with 140 mile an hour winds. Folks, this is real. Need help getting out anywhere in Florida to evacuate any of the evacuation zones. The number is posted right here on the screen. It's 1-800-729-3413. 1-800-729-3413. Folks, check on your elderly neighbors when you go to evacuate. Let's not leave them unable to get out of the storm. We want everyone to survive. You can survive storm surge if you get out. Turn around, don't drown. Category 4, Hurricane Milton. Again, we're just waiting on WFLA out of Florida. They are running a few minutes behind, but they are great. And their model, their in-house model, will differ most of the time from Euro and will differ sometimes from the GFS model, but it is a very good model. It's a very good job with it. Like and share. You can never come back. Subscribe. Have a grow this channel. Eventually you'll come back because I'll get my crap. Now the way it's moving now. Jet stream's gonna pick it up and it's gonna go. Here we go. It's already Category 4, so.
So compare and two were gonna all together.
Well, it's going to go right out. That front's going to catch it. It's just going to go right back out in the ocean.
Very well. That was it this morning. Then I'll bring it back. But I don't.
Huh?
Walmart, you part of
No.
inside, I guess, tonight, or they didn't post it. This is what around. And I'm gonna have to find it all. This is 111 pounds for 15 pounds. But when I ordered it, I thought it was like not the small pumpkin, but there's a can. When I said, I was like, what? And they did my mother gave me. Everybody in their brother. I just want you to know that I'm not concerned.
Aaron.
One of my colleagues said, so I may not have a TikTok account tomorrow because apparently I picked off somebody with 8.8 million followers by
You
saying,
get 3 terms of service before they ban your account. You get 3 terms of service before they ban
I'm
your
just
account.
saying that maybe you shouldn't lie about stuff. Would you like to get off the soapbox?
They're gonna be doing all the talking. I'm just live broadcasting.
I don't think I would be irritated about really. They did find Anthony, by the way. Did you hear me? They found out. She's fine. She got alcohol. They couldn't get a hold of her. You can't go up. You can't.
See, he'll go out that way, man. See, he'll go out that way. See, he'll follow Chewy out.
No.
No, you're not going that way? Standing on my feet. For 3 times.
And finally, one person just keeps replying to one comment I made for some reason video about, she's not a Trump follower. I'm like, you know what? You're right. You win. You're done. You win. I give up. Like, I'm not responding to it, but I'm tired of getting the notification. Because I can't block them off somebody else's comment video. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you know what? She's not. You win. Yay. Problem solved. You know? But you win. I'm not going to argue with you on the internet. Like,
Here, go out for that thing? Okay, come on. Hold on. Hold on.
Tracking the Tropics, powered by Bose Electric, will begin momentarily. Tracking the Tropics, powered by Bose Electric, will begin momentarily. Live from our hurricane headquarters with real-time analysis from some of the nation's top meteorologists, this is Tracking the Tropics, powered by Bose Electric.
Just in moments ago, the 11 o'clock update is in, and it's a significant one, pointing to Hurricane Milton now at Category 4 strength, expected to reach Category 5 strength in the Gulf of Mexico, and the track has nudged slightly to the north. It is becoming more, of course, of a significant threat for the Tampa Bay area. We're live on Tracking the Tropics to break it down with meteorologist Eric Stone. JB here with you, kicking off an entire day's worth of coverage on Hurricane Milton. The 11 o'clock track is in. We're about to break it down. We are interactively here to answer your questions live. You can use hashtag HeyEric or hashtag HeyJB in the Facebook Live or YouTube Live comment section. But really, if you're here for the 11 o'clock track, the new forecast cone, it is in. Eric will send you over to the wall for the very latest, and this just dropped moments ago.
Yeah, that's right. And boy, you know, we went to bed last night, and this was a Category 1 storm. You wake up this morning, and now it's almost a Category 5. Boy, talk about rapid intensification. 155 miles per hour. It only has to go up 1 mile an hour to get to Cat 5 status, and it is expected to. Look at the pressure now, 933. This is a low one, definitely. And it's looking very, very impressive as it moves east and southeast. Is expected to become a Category 5 storm as early as 2 o'clock this afternoon at 165. But it's going to interact with a jet stream. The only saving grace is that at least this will be a little bit weaker as it does approach the Tampa Bay area and the west coast of Florida. In fact, it is expected to be a pretty strong Category 3, still a major hurricane as it hits Tampa Bay or somewhere along the west coast. The cone still pretty far north around Cedar Key and the southernmost point right around the Fort Myers area. But boy, we're right in the middle, and the track has nudged ever so slightly to the north, which again doesn't bode as well. If this track stays to our south, then we're not going to deal with the storm surge that it would if it stays to the north. So right now, it has got a beeline right for us here in Tampa. So again, what is steering this is part of the jet stream that is digging southward. Not only is this steering it, but it is going to create some wind shear as it moves toward the northeast. It's going to pick this storm up and take this right into the west coast of Florida, again, as a major hurricane. Looks like right now a Category 3, and then eventually out to sea. So the models, the average models, still pretty close to Tampa. The black are the average or consensus models. One of them is south into Manatee County. This was the original National Hurricane Center track, but now it's shifted a little bit further to the north to the other consensus models. Some of the models still take it closer to Fort Myers, and then a couple of the other models, GFS, one of them, take it a little bit further off to the north. So yet again, it does look like most models are from Tampa southward, but GFS is that outlier. And again, we'll continue to show you these evolutions of the forecast model. So both are now in agreement, pretty close to making at least a graze of the Yucatan by tomorrow. And then look at this, by Wednesday morning, again, not much difference but the European a little bit further to the south, just south of Tampa Bay, and the GFS, I would say Pasco, Hernando County, but both in agreement of landfall somewhere between 8 and 11 o'clock tomorrow evening. Of course, hurricane watches are in effect. I do expect those to become warnings as we get closer to that 36-hour period. By Thursday afternoon, everything pretty much all said and done. Now, this is our in-house model. It doesn't quite go out far enough to show where this makes landfall, but look at the last couple frames. It's moving more east-northeast. I think this, our graph model, is looking like a landfall around Sarasota or southern Manatee County. Right now, it only goes out till Thursday morning, but a much slower storm, too. So we'll have to see the timing, as this would depict more of a Thursday morning storm, while most models are Wednesday evening. Again, there's a lot of moving parts here, and the models are all trying to keep up with this. One worst case scenario right here in regards to storm surge: if this storm makes landfall from St. Pete Beach northward, then we are looking at all this water being pushed right into Tampa Bay, and this would be twice as bad as Helene at least, and even more so around Pinellas County. I would say even more than 8 to 12 feet, 14 to 15 maximum. But if it takes a southern route, which would spare us quite a lot of damage here in the Bay Area, it would pull the water out of Tampa Bay away from Pinellas County. Of course, the worst would be Sarasota and Manatee County, which still are going to be bad in scenario 1 or 2. But again, we are looking at one of these two scenarios as this storm is going to make landfall somewhere on the West Coast. Right now, the forecast is 8 to 12 feet. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little bit higher. Even though we're looking at a Cat 3, we're still going to see about a Cat 4 storm surge, because it takes a while for the momentum of those waves to subside a bit. So again, we are looking at significant life-threatening storm surge around the center and south of this storm as we head into Wednesday. Tropical storm force wind possible as early as Wednesday morning. So let's take a look at the timing. Look at this. It almost grazes the Yucatan, and then we start to see tropical storm force wind Wednesday morning into the afternoon. Hurricane force winds sometime late in the afternoon Wednesday into Wednesday evening. This does be downgraded to a 3, but still major hurricane. Don't let that fool you. At least it's weakening some. And a storm that's weakening as it makes landfall is less powerful than a storm that's strengthening. So again, that's the only saving grace. But right now, it's looking like those strong hurricane force wind somewhere between 8, 9, 10, and 11 o'clock on Wednesday. By Thursday morning, those winds do get out of here. And by Thursday afternoon, the whole system is back into the Atlantic. So what I want to show you is the timing of the winds of the forecast models. Don't necessarily pay attention to the actual numbers, because these numbers are going to appear low. These are a 3-hour point value. And in between those 3 hours, there's a lot of time for those winds to be much stronger. And that's what's going to happen. So the strongest wind in the European model, which again, still takes this through Manatee County, which would be a better case scenario storm surge wise here in Tampa Bay and also in Pinellas County, we'll start to see those winds become really strong 8, 9, 10 o'clock on Wednesday. By Thursday morning, look where the European model has the hurricane now off the Space Coast to Cape Canaveral. On Thursday evening, things really wind down. As far as the GFS model, this one takes us a little bit closer to Pinellas and Pasco County. So you see those hurricane force wind between 8 and 11 o'clock would be the worst. And then once we get into the overnight hours and the storm exits to our northeast, Thursday, things start to subside. But take a look at the wind gusts. Now, the wind gust Wednesday morning is pretty close to tropical storm force. So if you're evacuating and you're told to evacuate, you do so, and you do it today or at the very latest tomorrow, because once Wednesday hits, the winds are really going to start to pick up. By early afternoon, we see tropical storm force wind, and then we start to see the 100+ mile per hour wind gust, even with a hurricane offshore in Pinellas and Hillsborough County, somewhere between 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 o'clock. And again, you can see these are 3-hour point values, which means we're going to see wind gusts well above the values you're seeing here. So you see 107 in Tampa, 106 in Zephyr Hills, but I'm telling you, these wind gusts are going to be more like 125 to 135 as we've got a strong Cat 3 on the way. Thursday morning, tropical storm force wind gust, and then by Thursday afternoon into the evening, the gusts do subside a bit. But boy, what a strong storm on the way. As As far as rain goes, the heaviest rain is going to be to the north of the storm. So if the GFS model does verify, unfortunately, we would get that storm surge right into Tampa Bay. We wouldn't get too much rain, about 2 to 4, maybe 5 inches or so. The European model, a little bit further to the south. Look at the yellow bullseye right here over Tampa Bay, 8 to 12 inches of rain. But you know what? I'd rather have the rain versus the storm surge any day. And of course, we are going to continue to monitor the wobble tracker to see if we see any deviation from where the eye and the forecast track are. So, JB, boy, we had a doozy with Helene, and now we've got even more of a doozy with this one.
Meteorologist Eric Stone sitting down with us for a meteorologist Q&A that starts now, of course, on Track in the Tropics. Real quick, as we talked about last night on our special Sunday night edition of Track in the Tropics, the real-time WFLA.com wobble tracker will not be any more important than it is for this storm. The reason is because wobbles could make the difference between this storm pinpointing Tampa Bay and hitting Tampa Bay directly versus missing it to the north and hitting Pinellas or Pasco County, or missing it to the south, hitting Manatee into Sarasota counties. The wobble tracker is streaming 24 hours a day, all week long on WFLA.com. Just search for Milton WFLA wobble tracker in Google. We also have a link in the description on this video, or you can find it as well on the YouTube live description if you're watching on YouTube live. But we'll bring Eric back in here. Eric, can you bring the track back up? Because we have been talking about worst case scenario for just the entire region. And of course, Tampa has such a densely populated, focus on really just around Tampa Bay, South Tampa, really right there on the water, as you would expect. We have tons of waterfront property here in Tampa Bay. So when you look at this latest track and you see that the center of it, right down the pipe, I mean, really the center of the forecast cone is right through Tampa Bay. Eric, is this, I mean, if it does hold to this cone and goes down the center of this track, is this worst case scenario for Tampa Bay?
Close. Worst case scenario, JB, would be about 10 to 15 miles to the north. If this goes right through Tampa Bay and the eye is right into Tampa Bay, we're not going to have the extreme storm surge in the bay. But if this moves 10 to 15 miles to the north, JB, that southwest wind and westerly wind is just going to keep on blowing that water. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw upwards of 14 foot of storm surge.
You can use hashtag Hey Eric or hashtag Hey JB to have your comment featured like this on Facebook Live or YouTube Live. Melanie asking that exact question. What's actually worse? The eye coming right over you, or it being slightly north and getting hit with bigger storm surge?
Well, you know what? Obviously, if you're along the coast and the eye is slightly to the north of you, that's going to be the worst case scenario. But remember, when JB and I were streaming here during Hurricane Ian, remember Northport got nailed for 4 hours straight. And I know JB remembers that. They just kept getting hammered. You know why? Because they were not in the eye. They were barely off. So I think if you're just to the north of the eye, at least as far as rain and wind, you're going to see a more prolonged period of time. I'm not saying 4 hours because this is moving a lot faster than Ian, but if you're just to the north of the eye and you're not along the coast, that would be the worst case scenario. If you are along the coast, the worst case scenario would be if you're just south of the eye.
Let's continue to take our questions again using hashtag Hey JB, hashtag Hey Eric. We have another way to be able to bring in questions and comments as well. I'll kind of talk more about that in just a moment. But first, let's continue on with the questions that we have coming in. This one from Nick, hashtag Hey JB, show us the in-house model. Any possibility it could make landfall in Mexico? We'll answer the Mexico question, Nick, in just a moment. But there's a reason why I want to show our WFLA in-house model. And the reason is because the in-house model was extremely accurate during Helene. And Helene, of course, we had tremendous model consensus. We know that. But as far as pinpointing where that storm was headed, the in-house model had it pretty spot on. So, Eric, you had the in-house model that basically the model runs went up to a certain point and then it froze. Can we bring up that moment?
Yeah, definitely. And what I want to do is I want to show the evolution. Now, the one thing that I don't necessarily agree with this in-house model is the timing, because this is the only model that really delays landfall about 12 hours or so. So here is the in-house model as the storm starts to get stronger. And you can see it doesn't.
Now, no landfall in Mexico,
No,
right?
and I don't think it's going to make landfall. I like I said, I think it's going to graze Mexico. And then as you put this, as I continue this out, the jet stream picks the storm up. Now you see how the storm gets bigger in surface area. That's because it's interacting with a jet stream. So it's becoming what we call extra